This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to week 1 of Effective Copywriting, your month 4 course. This month we're going to be doing a lot of writing, as you probably guessed from the title of the course, but we're going to be actually working on creating effective communication for nonprofit organizations in the form of testimonial magazine ads. So we're going to be doing some designing, we're going to be doing some writing. But I want to go over a couple of things at the beginning. My name is Elena Rogal. I'm your course director for this month. I also teach the month 12 class professional practice. I come from a career in graphic design. I was a television art director for 20 years. Before that, I worked for some ad agencies. I have a long history with nonprofit organizations. I worked for PBS and NPR for 14 years. I've done work for the Nature Conservancy pro bono that helped them raise money to get some environmentally sensitive land purchased. And I currently do pro bono work for an animal charity in Colorado. So I know what it takes to create advertising to get people to donate money to a nonprofit organization. So that's kind of what the backbone of the course is about. My other background is I am currently a student, just like you. I went through creative writings, the MFA in creative writing here at Full Sail in 2013. I also have a master's in English literature, a bachelor's in English, and I'm currently working on my PhD in text and technology. I just finished my coursework, so I know what it's like when you have to juggle work and deadlines and getting things organized, and everything's flying by at the speed of light. So I understand probably better than anybody in the department because I live the student life and I have for many, 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 many years. So if you need any help with time management or getting organized, I'm your person. Contact me because the only way you're going to get through this accelerated program for the next 8 months, well, 9 months, is by really focusing in on time management and understanding what's due every week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about testimonial ads, and according to George Felton, who is the author of our really awesome textbook, it's called Advertising Concept and Copy. It is a ebook that you get a code for in your Full Sail student email account. You use that code and download the book into VitalSource. If you don't have your code or you don't have your book, you must get it immediately. Call FSO support right away because we are using this book starting in the very first assignment, and you're going to use it throughout the program. So it's really important that you get that book as soon as possible. So according to George Felton, testimonials are really just, having a spokesperson represent your organization or your product or your service. So it's where someone speaks for your organization or your product. So when you think about who's going to be your spokesperson, they're basically testifying. You want it to be true, so they should be trustworthy. So they should have a clear tie to the organization. And I always use this example as a bad example of who should not be your spokesperson. For example, if you're doing an animal charity, the last thing you want is that NFL football player who went to jail for abusing pit bulls. That just would not work at all, and the nonprofit organization would not be happy. So you want to make sure that you can connect your spokesperson to the type of ads that you're going to be doing. I'm going to go into more depth next week, but I just want to give you kind of an overview. So in the textbook, George Felton has 9 different types of testimonials that he spells out for you. We're going to choose 6 of them for our big project for the month, but here's some examples of what those types of testimonials are. Extreme users are people who buy the product every time. Maybe you only buy Skippy peanut butter and you're a brand loyalist, you're an extreme user. For a nonprofit organization, an extreme user can be someone who donates every single year to their charity. So I know I have one that I donate to every single year because I believe in what they do. So I could be a really good spokesperson. So you can think about, as you're creating some concepts for testimonial ads, who would be a really good example of an extreme user? It could be a regular person or a regular Joe, but they support this organization year after year after year, and they believe in what they do. Experts are a good, trustworthy type of spokesperson because they are probably associated with the charity in some way. For example, if it's an animal charity, maybe the spokesperson is a veterinarian who donates their services to the nonprofit. Company bigwigs is another type of testimonial that Felton talks about in the book. And these are people that are associated that actually work for the charity or donate their time to the charity, like being on their board of trustees, or maybe it's the charity's president. And, we've all bought things from celebrities. So this can be a little tricky when you're in school because you really can't just like grab a celebrity's image and use it. But we'll talk more about that next week. But speaking of celebrities, here's Sir Paul McCartney, and he is the spokesperson for PETA, and he's a vegetarian. And what's important about this ad is how you can hear clearly his voice and how he is supporting that organization through his voice. So he says, I'm Paul McCartney and I'm a vegetarian. And then over here in the body copy, he talks about his story about many years ago, he was fishing and he was reeling in the poor fish and he realized I'm killing him, and all the pleasure of fishing went away. And he realized as he watched the light, as the fish was fighting for breath, that his life was as important to him as he was. So that instance, that story of Paul McCartney's from his past is really relatable to people who want to support PETA. So that's an example of a really good spokesperson that has a tie to an organization. Here's an example. Oh, yeah. Go ahead,
We
Lydell.
can't see of your images.
You can't see my images.
No,
I thought this. Okay. Sorry about that. All
that's
right, let me
okay.
go back. All right, so there's Paul McCartney. So you see how he's pointing to himself and he's saying things like, I am a vegetarian. And he lays out his case as to why he became a vegetarian. So let's see. There he is. Okay.
There he is.
So, yeah, this would be a really good example of someone who's got a legitimate tie to an organization. They really believe in what the organization does, so they'd be an excellent spokesperson. This is an example of a nonprofit organization. It's called Bright Focus Foundation. They provide resources for caregivers of people who are taking care of family members with Alzheimer's. So the headline is really strong and it kind of connects to the images. I used to be his little girl. Now I'm the stranger who brings him coffee. And in this ad, the narrative that's behind it, the voice and tone comes right from that woman who used to be his little girl and now she's the stranger who brings him to coffee. And she talks about how, she's a caregiver for her dad with Alzheimer's and he doesn't remember who she is, but through Bright Focus Foundation and the resources that they supplied for her, she was able to cope with what her father was going through. So that's a really good way to tie in like a regular person or an extreme user, someone who's used the services of the charity and can speak to how helpful that was. Another fun way to approach a testimonial ad is using humor, which is fine. Not all charities are, dealing with, dead dogs or, abused women. But even though it's an animal charity, they're using a little bit of sense of humor by having the spokesperson be Einstein the dog. This is called personification. And personification is really great when you want to lighten the mood a little bit. So here Einstein is telling his story about how he got adopted through this organization and how he had to break in his new owner. So it was really, you're hearing the dog's voice and tone through what he's saying. Okay. Another way, this was a student ad from a few years ago, but this was for Human Rights Watch. And this student decided to create a thing called the Human Rights Watch Boutique, where people would donate their gently used items and the Human Rights Watch Boutique would sell them. And all the proceeds from the sale, 100% of the proceeds went to Human Rights Watch. So here you're hearing from the shoe, the personification is coming through the voice and tone of the shoe and saying, I've got a new home. And she tells a story about how she was donated to the HRW boutique and all the proceeds from her sale are now helping people with human rights. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing this month, is working on using magazine print ads to help our organizations raise money or raise awareness. We're going to pretend like the organization that you're going to sign up for in week 1 called you on the phone and said, hey, we want to do some magazine ads and we want to see your concepts and your ideas for these testimonial ads. So that's what we're going to be working on. That's the premise for this month. So what we're going to have to focus in on is you usually start by writing copy. You might have an idea for an ad like, oh, I'm going to use a dog to be my point of view, but you have to write the copy to actually hear the dog's voice. And the first thing that people usually start with is a headline, but not always. Sometimes they just write a lot of facts about the organization and create the body copy, and the headline might come out of the body copy. But let's talk a little bit about how a headline operates. Well, first, it's the key element in print advertising. It's usually the first thing that people read. So, you know, when this woman says, I used to be his little girl, now I'm the stranger who brings him coffee, you get this idea of what the ad's about just from the headline. It conveys that main message. So with the Bright Focus Foundation, the headline gives you the impression that the spokesperson here knows what she's talking about because she's experienced it. So it can work with the visual to get attention, so they kind of work together to create synergy. So a headline could be as straightforward as offering something new. It could be solving a problem. It could promise a benefit, or it could arouse curiosity. Because what you want the headline to do is to grab the person's attention and keep that attention so that they read the body copy and that they then respond to the call of action. So with headlines, there's 2 different kinds. There's direct action ones, which are really straightforward, to the point. They just tell you exactly what to do. They're also called command headlines. So they're going to command you to pay attention. The other type of headline is called an indirect action headline, and these aren't as straightforward. These are kind of creative because they're intriguing, and they may, you know, create a puzzle or ask a question that it's such an intriguing question that you have to go into the body copy to read what this is about. And here's an example that is from my swipe file that did exactly that. It made this statement. It was so intriguing, this statement, that I couldn't help but read the rest of the ad. So here's this smirking cat, and he's like, I am not a pet. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not a pet? Of course you're a pet. You're a cat. Look at your face. You're a cat. But then I read the body copy because I wanted to know why he was being so adamant about not being a pet. I couldn't help but be intrigued. So I read the copy, and the body copy really sells the product, which is Iam's cat food. And this pet doesn't think of himself as a pet because he's fed this really good cat food. So he's a member of the family. So I thought that was a really great example to show you how that works. So it was the body copy in the ad that really sold me on what was happening with the ad. So the body copy is where you actually convince the reader that your message is clear, and that for nonprofit organizations, this is what we do, this is why we do it, this is why we need your help, or this is what you may need to know if you need these services. So with body copy, you really want to sell things. So David Ogilvy wrote this book on advertising. He's kind of like the godfather of advertising. And he has these 7 tips for writing copy that sells. So your body copy in your print ads needs to sell your organization. So you want to create a compelling argument. And he says, go big or go home. You have to convince your reader that your organization, your animal charity, is the most important animal charity, and you must pick up the phone or go to the website and make a donation now so they can continue to do the good work that they do. So make that compelling argument as to why they should support it. So you need to do your homework. You need to understand who is actually reading your ad, who is going to be your target audience. So you have to understand who you're writing for, how that person thinks, and what that person needs. We're going to explore the needs part of it in the discussion board this week. So to write good copy, you need to know who you're writing to. That way you can speak right to them in a voice and tone that they understand. because you don't want to talk down to your customers, especially today. Everybody knows they're being sold something. You get hammered with ads like every minute of every day. So you know you're being sold. So the last thing you want is the advertiser to talk down to you and you see it clearly, because that's kind of insulting, and you will probably turn the page or change the channel or put your Apple Music on instead of listening to commercials. So with the headline, David Ogilvy says that's 80% of your ad. If you don't grab your readers with your headline, they're probably not going to read the body copy. So a strong headline is what pulls them in to read the body copy. So if you have $1, 80 cents of it is being spent on that headline. So the headline has to be compelling. Then the argument that you're making in the body copy must be equally compelling to get that reader to respond to your call to action. So he says in number 5, don't get distracted from making the sale. A lot of novice copywriters try to be overly creative and not just be concise and say exactly what it is you need. This is what we do. This is why we do it. This is why we need your help. That's really the essence of advertising for nonprofit organizations. You're educating the reader as to what the organization does. This is what I do. You're telling them why it's important. That's usually grounded in their mission statement on their website or their annual report. And this is why we need your help. We do this important work, but we can't do it without you. Making a donation will keep us in business. So don't get distracted from making that sale. So explain why it's important. That's why I always say break it down into these 3 things. This is what I do. Explain why it's important. Explain why you need your help, why they should be interested, how they can help you, and why they should trust you. With a spokesperson and testimonial ads, it's really important that you form that bond of trust with your audience, because they're not going to believe what you're selling if they don't trust the person that's actually saying it. So your copy is important. You need to treat it that way. Just because, body copy might only have 4 sentences in it doesn't mean it takes a long time to craft it. It takes a long time to make a headline. First thought, best thought only worked for poet Allen Ginsberg. The rest of us have to revise, rethink, revision everything. So you have to spend time on writing copy. So here's an example of an ad that I thought had really good body copy and a really intriguing headline. So to give you some backstory, the Volkswagen bus, the flat-fronted one you see from the 70s that are kind of making a resurgence now because everybody's buying up the old ones and fixing them up. They were still making them in Brazil up till a couple of years ago, but they had to stop the line completely because they can't put an airbag in a flat-fronted bus. So they pulled them off the market, and they realized it was going to be, the end of an era. So what Volkswagen did was they created this ad campaign where they were unintroducing the Volkswagen bus, and it would soon be at no dealerships near you. And then that's kind of intriguing, because look at the words here. One of the projects you're working on this week is you're looking at headlines in print ads and talking about why they work. Why did the copywriter here chose unintroducing the Volkswagen bus, soon at no dealerships near you? He could have just said, we're not making any more Volkswagen buses. Sorry, but he didn't. They're unintroducing it, because what the body copy is selling the reader on is the fact that we know you loved your Volkswagen bus. This is appealing to a very specific audience. We know you have stories about your Volkswagen bus. I have many stories about my brother's bus that I borrowed and took to every music festival. So they wanted to hear our stories. So you went to this website and you shared your stories about your adventures in your Volkswagen bus, and that kept the story alive through this campaign that they did. So I thought that was a really cool way of looking at specific words, how headlines are constructed, and how body copy really sells. Okay, so let's talk about how the course is structured. It's a very busy month. Everything that we do has deadlines every week. So every week you're doing something, except for the campaign research paper in week 3 that opens, but I'll get to that in a minute. Week 1, you're writing a small short essay about voice and tone. Usually they're due on Friday, but I push the deadline back to Sunday because I don't want you guys to start off the week stressed. So you're writing a quick little essay. Let me pull that up. Oh, that's the discussion board. So your essay is all about voice and tone. So you're going to read chapter 9 in advertising concept and copy. That's our textbook that I told you you must have. So you have to get it because you have to write a paper quoting directly from it. So get that and use the 2 articles that are down here. What is copywriting and how it is important for a designer, and 10 strategies to help conquer a fear of writing. What you want to do is read with intention. I'm a lit major, so I can tell you that this is important. Here's what you're writing about. It's these 3 bullet points. It's talking about the role of the copywriter and how does that affect media design. What ways do copywriting establish a brand's voice and tone? What are key strategies for writing copy that effectively communicates features and benefits of a company? So as you're reading chapter 9 in advertising concept and copy, and you're reading the Daniel Adams article, What is Copywriting and How It's Important for a Designer, and Tim Lapatino's 10 Strategies to Help Conquer Fear of Writing, have these bullet points in front of you as you're reading and make notes, because you're going to directly quote in APA style for this paper. This paper is just 750 to 1,000 words, so it's not that strenuous. Think about it this way. There are 3 pieces of research that we give you. Chapter 9 in the Felton text, the Adams article, and the Lapatino article. Then we ask you to go to the Full Sail Library and find something else that ties in. So as you're reading with intention and realizing what the paper's about and what you're writing about, pull out direct quotes that will help support your argument as you write about each of these bullet points. When you use a direct quote, you're basically starting out by introducing the quote by saying who's writing it and what it is and what it's about. Then you're going to give us the quote. That's the next sentence. And then the third sentence is all about, you, in your own words, what that direct quote is about and how does it support your argument. So if you think about it, with 4 direct quotes in the paper, you've already written 3 sentences for each. So you've written 12 sentences just by using your 4 direct quotes. Okay, so don't stress over the paper. It's due on Sunday, but it's really important that you understand how voice and tone operates, because you're going to need to do that. Okay, let's talk about, back to my course at a glance. This course at a glance is in the FSO platform, so I highly recommend you print it out and hang it over your desk. I'm going to talk about the headlines project second. I want to talk about Settle and Alric 15 catalog of needs. This discussion board post opened today. Your initial post is due Wednesday, and your reply posts are due on Sunday. You're going to do 3 reply posts. But let's talk about the discussion board's initial post first. So you're going to talk about how the psychology of advertising works by reading about Settle and Alric's 15 catalog of needs. It's in Advertising Concept and Copy, Chapter 3. So with your initial post, the first thing you're going to do before you do anything else is you're going to use this Google Doc link, and it's going to take you to the Google Doc that lists all of the nonprofit organizations, and you're going to sign up for one. They're broken out by categories like animals, children, you know, stuff like that. So sign up for one using the Google Doc. Once your name is there, you're working on that one, and no one else can work on that that organization. I need to go back to my discussion board. Thank you. Okay, so sign up for your organization. You have to do that first, because then what you're going to do is you're going to think about who is the direct competition for my nonprofit organization. So for example, if I am doing Red Rover, what you need to do is think about who is the direct competition for Red Rover. It's an animal organization, so it's probably the Humane Society and maybe Lucky Day Animal Rescue in Colorado. So you want to go out into the internet or into magazines and look for print ads that represent the competition. Let me show you a really quick way to find print ad images for your swipe file and for this specific assignment. So what you want to do is go to a Google search and just put in, and say you're an animal, you're doing an animal charity, animal nonprofit print ad images. That is how easy it is. When you go under images, your page is filled with magazine ads that are animal print ads. How is it a print ad? It's got a headline, it's got body copy, it's got a call to action. It is not a web graphic. A web graphic doesn't have the call to action. You're not going to be able to click through. It's not a magazine ad. So I want you to make sure you are looking at magazine ads. Okay, that's an Instagram post. Here's one. Okay, so just do a Google search, find 2 nonprofit organizations that represent your direct competition, download these ads and drop them into the discussion board. And then what you're going to do is you're going to apply Settle and Alrich's 15 catalog of needs to those ads. Every single ad on this page fits into more than one category listed here under Settle and Alrich's 15 catalog of needs, which is further explained in chapter 3 of the Felton text. So you're going to, there's an example of it in the, that I did. So there's an example sitting there about how you talk about these. I don't want you to say that this, what was the ad, was that one? Let me pick one real quick. What is this one? These are really bad. Oh, here's one. Oh, that's a calendar. See, when you got to be careful because some of these are calendars and some of them are just web graphics. This is a magazine ad. It's showing it in. So say I have this ad. This is showing the print ad for, it's an actual double truck ad for SPCA. And I'm going to say it fits into affiliation, the need to be closely associated with others. I'm not just going to say that. You're going to define what affiliation is using Felton's words, use a direct quote, use the Felton text often. Define what affiliation means, then describe how the ad actually reflects affiliation. How does it reflect novelty? How does it reflect consistency? So there's these 15 different needs here, and you're going to take your ad, and each ad is going to fit into more than one category. So make sure you're writing strong rationales, quote from the textbook to define each category, and then explain how it fits into more than one category. Every ad fits into more than one category, so you have to make sure that each ad has at least 2 categories listed with it. Okay, then you're going to come back on Sunday. Here's the example I used. You're going to come back on Sunday and you're going to respond to 3 of your classmates' posts by looking at their ads and placing their ads into categories that they might not have listed and explain why. This class is all about the why. I want everything you write about to answer the why this is important. How does this fit in? Why does it work? Why? So if I ever send back copy that says because, it's because you didn't finish your sentence. So it's really important that you learn to write strong rationales now because you're going to be expected to do that throughout the program. Okay, let me go back to my course at a glance. So the last thing we're doing in week 1, the research papers due Sunday, the discussion board has initial post Wednesday, 3 reply posts on Sunday. The headline projects that inspire is also looking at magazine print ads. So as you're searching for your competition, do another search for some ads that really stick out to you. I had all the ads I showed you in the when I was talking about body copy and headlines are from my swipe file. I find ads, I build my swipe file on Pinterest because it gives me a place to store them all. I also have a physical swipe file because if I'm at the dentist's office and I'm reading one of their magazines and I find a really cool ad, I have been known to rip them out of the magazine and shove them in my purse. So I have both kind of swipe files. You're not handing in the swipe file, it is just giving you a place to store really good examples of print advertising and headlines and body copy and maybe images and synergy and how things work. So that's what your swipe file is about. So the headline project is all about finding 5 strong headlines. And then you have to do a rationale as to why these headlines work. Why did the copywriter choose unintroducing the Volkswagen bus, for example? So you can look at headlines from magazine ads, or if you have like direct mail pieces, you can look at that as well. But what I want you to do is to either give, if you're using the Google search and you're finding examples of magazine print ads or really strong headlines, put the thumbnail into a Word document, then write your rationale under it. If you don't include the thumbnail, you must type out the headline so I understand what you're talking about. So you're going to find 5 print ads or 5 pieces that have 5 effective headlines, and you're going to write a rationale as why each one works. And you're going to support your argument with your rationale using this headline writing basics PDF that is right here on the bottom. Okay? So that's due on Sunday. So let me go back to how this all works together. So what's going to happen this month is the voice and tone paper is going to help you as you go into week 2 and you start developing your testimonial ad concepts. And what we're going to do is we're going to structure the testimonial ads as if you're actually presenting to a client. So in week 1, you're getting prepared, you're doing some research, you're understanding who the organization is, you're examining their competition when you do the Settle and Alric thing, you're getting a grasp on headlines that are really good, you're understanding voice and tone by doing the paper, because in week 2 you're going to start writing up concepts and developing concepts for your magazine testimonial ads. You're also going to develop your target audience profiles. Remember, I said it's really important you do your research on your target audience. The target audience profiles is going to have you develop 2 personas that represent your target audience. This is a really fun project and students do really well on this. So this is a fun one. So this one you're going to do research. So I actually say do the target audience profiles assignment first in week 2, then go into the concepts. There are some tutorials associated with the Mastery project this month. They are open now, so if you have time and you wrap up all your week 1 work, get started on the tutorials. Because in week 3, what we're going to do is revisions to those initial comps that we're doing. In week 2, we're creating 6 concepts, and then we're going to comp up in InDesign 3 of the ideas that we came up with. Then in week 3, we're going to revise them. And then we're going to write taglines in a discussion board in a writing workshop. And those can help with your revisions. And then the campaign research paper is opening in week 2, but it is not due till week 4. And what that is all about is making sure that you're understanding what you need to pitch to a client. But I'll get into more of that later. And then we're going to wrap up the month with your Mastery Learning project. Okay? So to go over week 1 again, you have Settle and Alric's 15 catalog of needs. That's your discussion board post with your initial post about the competition on Wednesday. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. Wednesday, your initial post is due. Your 3 reply posts are due on Sunday. Your Mastery research paper, the persuasive essay in 750 to 1,000 words in proper APA style, is due on Sunday. And then your headlines that inspire project is due on Sunday with the 5 strong headlines. Okay. And like I said, the Mastery Learning Project for week 2 is open if you want to get started on the tutorials. Okay. All right. Any questions about anything I covered? Liddell, hi, Victoria. I see you popped in.
No questions so far.
Okay. So if you're watching the archive and you're starting to work on the assignments and you start to get lost about something, pick up the phone, call me during office hours, send me a message through FSO. Don't get worried. I am here to help you be successful, and the best way for me to help you is to communicate. So let's keep those lines of communication open. It's a busy month and it's a lot of writing, and I know for a lot of you, you hear the word writing and you freak out. I used to too, but now I have all these English degrees, so I know how to teach writing. I taught English composition to freshmen for a couple of years, so I know how to help you guys with research, with writing, with copywriting, because I've done that too. So If you have any questions as you start to work on a project, shoot me a message right away through FSO. Call me on the phone. If you want to set up a one-on-one go-to meeting, I am here to help you be successful this month. So make sure you have all my contact information with the Google Voice number, the office phone, my Full Sail email address, and then of course through the FSO platform where most of our communication takes place. Okay?
I have one question.
Yes.
For the swipe file, so we don't turn that in at all?
No. But you can, when you're searching for your competition for the discussion board, you can use those same ads that you chose for your discussion board as your headline project too. So then you just have to find 3 more. But what I do is sometimes when I'm just even like teaching the class and I'm zipping around inside this search and I see something really good, like I'm really curious about this squirrel with the martini. So I might like make a copy of that and drop it in my swipe file just because I think it's an interesting concept and what could this possibly be? You know, is this going to be an ad? Is this an image? Here's another one. Here's a dog drinking beer. He's on a pup crawl. That's really fun. So I might stick this in my swipe file just because I like this little cap and I like that it's a pub crawl and it's a pup crawl, not a pub crawl. So things like that just end up in my swipe file because there might come a day where you can't design or write your way out of a paper bag and your swipe file will be your best friend because it's just such a source of inspiration. So I highly recommend everybody, if you haven't started one, you have to start one for this class. It is not required to be handed in, but trust me, you will use it throughout the program if you start like thinking in terms of what makes good advertising and, oh, look at this. This has a really great way that it's using the images. This might be a really cool way to do an ad for, say, a kitten rescue project or something. So I always grab things that are intriguing to me. I might not know why they're intriguing at first, but just having the swipe file can be helpful. Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording. And if you're watching this on the archive and you have questions, like I said, just reach out.